Yeah. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Waiting for a few people to show up before we get started. I have a note to preheat the oven to 500 degrees. It's going to be hot. It's going to cook quickly. So yeah, I'm here with Ella. She's joining us again. She's taking a little break from her work. Will and Maggie are joining us. I see them there, so let me add them in. Let's get them onto the stream. Hi, Will. How are you?
Good. I'm good. How
Maggie.
Hi.
Good. Oh, Marcy's here. Hi, Marcy. Hi, girls. Riley and Maggie. I'm so excited to be making matzo today. I think this is going to be really fun. I think it's going to be, well, we're going to see. I've never actually made it from scratch. I've always bought the boxed matzo, so this will be interesting. Cammie is here. Cora is on a group chat, so she won't be joining us this morning. She can always watch it later. And I have Nana here. So Nana, I'm going to be relying on you to send in some comments here and there in case I get some things wrong. And Aunt Liz is here as well, because we're going to be chatting about matzo. We're going to talk a little bit about a Passover Seder. It was interesting. So tonight is the first night of Passover. And I was thinking about it a little bit yesterday and just how much the food is such a big part of this particular meal, and it represents so much. So Maggie, I'm looking to you as well to help support this. I was not raised Jewish. I married into a Jewish family, so this is all learned in the last 20 plus years. So not a long time to learn.
At this point.
Yeah, I'm going to put my volume up just a little bit here. But I think we've got a bit of a crew, so I think we can get started. So interestingly, the matzo that we're making today is not kosher for Passover. And it's not kosher for two reasons. One, because we're going to use olive oil. So if you just used flour and water, then it would be kosher for Passover. But the other reason, which I thought was interesting, is no, it's not that. To be kosher for Passover, it has to be mixed and baked and finished in 18 minutes.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? So that would make it kosher, and that's because that when the holiday sort of talked about Jewish people escaping slavery, and they wouldn't have had time to actually bake bread in the time that they needed to escape, and so the bread had to be baked in 18 minutes, and there was no yeast for it to rise, and that's why the matzah is a no yeast, more like a cracker. Although what I understood in some reading last night is that the matzah used to be more like a naan than a cracker. The cracker is more because it's made in factories. So today it may come out more like naan. We'll have to see.
I like naan, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And Matt, anything you would add to that story, or we're good to get going?
I was just gonna say that my uncle would make homemade matzah, and I'd say it still was cracker-like. I don't know exactly how he did it, but it looked more like naan, but it still was crispy. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so, and I'm going to put up a little quote here from Nana, just saying that about 90% of American Jews are not kosher, so not keeping kosher. So this recipe would work fine in most families who are celebrating Passover tonight. But just mentioning that as an interesting sort of note about the specifics. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 500 degrees. And then the next step, and this is a really easy one, so we'll chat a little bit more while our matzah's cooking. I think we're going to take longer than 18 minutes just because there's going to be more chatting, but we'll see. So I'm going to add a banner here with the recipe so that we have it up, ready to go. So we're going to do 2 1/4 cups of flour, and the recipe that I'm using is from the New York Times, and they talked about using for the 1/4 cup to use whole wheat flour just to add a little bit more depth of flavor. But if you don't have whole wheat flour, just do 2 1/4 cups of the regular flour. Okay. If you have whole wheat, substitute that last 1/4 cup with whole wheat instead. And I actually have just barely a 1/4 cup. I was wondering what I was going to use this for. So here it is. So Elle, you measure out a cup of this, and I'll do the 1/4 cup. And you're going to mix that into the bowl. Oh, sure. Ella's going to get her apron.
I want to wear this shirt.
She's gotten dressed up for school today. And I'm going to do the 1/4 cup of whole wheat flour. Are you guys going to use just regular white flour or whole wheat?
Yeah, I think we just have white flour.
Okay. It just adds a little bit of a nuttier flavor.
Yeah, it sounds good. I just don't think we have it.
Okay. All right. So I've got my 1/4 cup of whole wheat flour. Are you ready to go on the white flour here? Okay. And then to that, you're going to add 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to grab my measuring.
What's this one?
Oh, we gotta grab the salt.
That should be good.
So here.
Yep, you can put it right in there. And we're going to add our salt, and we're going to get that mixed together before we add, and that's it. Oh, yeah, you're right, 2 cups, sorry. So that's 1/4. Oh, no, this is 1/4.
Our salt is kosher, so that counts for something.
That does count for something. How about that? Okay.
Is ours kosher?
I actually do have kosher salt in there if you want to grab it, but all right, so 3/4 teaspoon of salt.
Let's see in there.
Putting that like that. And I've got flour and salt in here, and we're just going to, well, actually, we're just going to use a spoon. We're just going to mix that together just to get the flours combined and the salt combined. And then all we do is we add our olive oil and our water, and the recipe calls for mixing with a wooden spoon. I'm not sure why a wooden spoon, but just to add your water and your olive oil, and that is it in terms of ingredients. It's going to add a little crispiness to the dough, to the final product.
That's a good question. That makes a lot of sense.
Olive oil. I didn't put anything in the olive oil, so maybe we should measure that first. What do you think, Ella? Okay, so we're going to add our 1/4 cup of olive oil here. We look for, what's that word again, Elle?
Not sandpaper.
The meniscus. Okay. We'll go ahead and start stirring this together until we get a dough. If it's too wet, you can add a little bit of flour. If it's too dry, oh, Nana likes your braids.
Thank you.
If it's too dry, you can add a little bit of water to your dough. But we're just going to kind of bring this together to make it into a dough. We'll probably get our hands in there in a minute. So you can,
look like dough.
it's getting there. How's yours looking, you guys?
It looks good. I think we'll get our hands in there soon too, but it's getting doughy.
And then once you get your dough mostly together, which it's mine is getting there. You can see if you kind of squeeze it. If it stays together, you've kind of got a dough. I don't think we need more water,
I
but
think we need a little.
yeah, maybe just a tiny bit more water. You want to just go fill up, and we'll put in a couple drops at a time. We may need, ours is a little bit dry. It's not really holding together. Well, it's not bad though. When you knead it, you'll start to notice that it incorporates a little bit more. We're going to knead the dough until it's smooth. And it's interesting because I can see how long we've been on. We've been on for 8 minutes. So we have to get this in the oven right now. Well, in like 2 minutes for it to be done.
Do you want this?
Let's add, like just a drop of water. That's good. Yeah, not too much. You don't want to get it too wet. And then once you've gotten it, and I've sort of been making a lot of bread lately, and buns and stuff like that, because we've just had not such great luck finding everything or keeping it in the house. We eat a lot of bread. So I've just been kneading my doughs in the bowl. I'm not sure if that's like a trick that I learned or what, but I don't know. It's like one less mess to clean up. So you're just going to knead until your dough is smooth.
I need a little more water.
I think we're good, Al, because you actually don't want to put too much in. See how mine's nice and it's holding together now, but we're going to go a little bit more just to make sure that flour is incorporated. And then once your dough is kneaded, you're going to break it up into 4 pieces.
It's gonna look like
And we're going to cook 2 at a time. What's that?
Is it gonna look like the regular?
I don't know, Ella.
Or is it gonna?
Mine won't look as perfect as the regular matzo because the matzo that we get from a factory, and so there's a lot of like precision there. It's gonna look a little more homemade. It probably won't be a perfect square. I bet it will taste just as good.
Will it have the little?
We're
So
gonna
like it looks like rose on a farm.
Yeah, it does look like rose. And then it will have, I think, we're gonna prick it with a fork, so it will have those sort of like fork pricks. I don't know if you noticed it has like little holes in it almost. All right, my dough is pretty good. I'm gonna now put mine. Can you put that bowl all the way over at the other end? Okay. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our dough into 4 pieces, and we're gonna try to roll it as thin as we possibly can to make a cracker. And one of the recommendations I saw was to possibly to use a
Hammer.
not a hammer, pasta maker, which I thought was an interesting idea, is to put it through a pasta maker a couple times. So my dough is pretty well kneaded. How about you guys?
We're getting there.
Okay.
It was pretty shaggy before, but it's just starting to come together. So
Okay. So once you have your dough pretty well combined and nice and smooth, you're looking for so that there's not a lot of like chunks of flour in it. I'm gonna get my pastry cutter to cut it into the 4 pieces, and then we just start rolling it as thin as we possibly can. It says to roll it almost to be translucent.
Oh, I know.
So now when you have matzah at a Seder, and correct me if I'm wrong here, anybody, but my understanding is you put 3 pieces together, covered by cloth, and then they're separated by cloth. Am I right in that? There's 3 pieces on top of each other? Maybe somebody in our audience can remember. That was sort of my memory. And then you take the instead of 3, and you take the middle matzah, which is the afikomen, and that means dessert, and that is the matzah that gets hidden around the house.
Can we get money?
And in our house, you get money if you find the afikomen.
At Maggie's family seders too, I think there's $20 at stake for the afikomen.
And you're making matcha.
It tastes like 1 + 1.
It's not his choice. Something related to Passover.
Max was going to taste a little bit of the dough. Hold on 1 second. Cool.
Let's eat it on the table.
All right, Maxwell says the dough is pretty good. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of flour on our, and we're at 12 minutes, so
You got to get moving
I don't know
here.
if we would have gotten this in time. Okay, and then you can go back and play. Yeah. You can stay? Or okay, Elle, you want to roll a little? So we're going to try to roll it out as much as we can into a circle, about 6 to 8 inches in diameter.
Jen, I'm sorry. Do we cut it before we roll it?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We cut it into 4 equal pieces,
Okay.
and we're gonna bake 2 at a time.
Yeah, we'll get a knife or something.
All right, we're gonna have to put some muscle in this, you guys. Now, if it's a little thicker than it calls for, it's not the end of the world. It's just gonna be a little bit chewier. It won't be as crisp as like a cracker. And if it's not a perfect circle, that's also okay. But I'm just gonna kind of keep rolling mine.
All right.
It is not
Roll
translucent
Maggie
yet.
and roll salt for the meeting.
I gotta say, I think we're going to be rolling this, and I can absolutely see how ours does look like a heart. How a pasta maker would work really well for this, because my dough sort of stretches and comes back together.
Yeah, ours is pretty tough.
Yeah, mine too, and also, but it gets there as you get going. I have one section that's translucent, and it's not a perfect circle, but that's okay. So we're gonna try to save our matzah. We love to eat matzah with a little bit of butter on it, right? Maxwell does.
It doesn't like blended.
We also love it the next day. Do you ever do matzah brie? Matzah brie?
Oh.
Maybe Nana can weigh in here a little bit.
Mommy?
It's where you mix it with eggs,
No.
and she always puts a little cinnamon and sugar in that as well.
Mommy?
Okay, we are looking really good here. I can't say that my dough, I'm gonna get this banner off. I can't say that my dough is a nice circle. It's got this weird sort of like extra shape here, but it's starting to look really translucent in spots. How's everybody else doing who's making it? Yours getting, mine almost looks like a Mickey Mouse. You see the ears? How's yours doing, Maggie?
It's coming together, definitely. It's on one side, it's not round, but
Yeah, and it's once you kind of get it going, it's okay. Once you get it going, you can really get it nice and thin and flat. So I have some translucent spots here for sure. So this is looking good. So we're gonna do 2 at a time. So this one,
Cut it.
yeah, we're gonna put this one onto our cookie dough tray. I'm gonna use parchment. It's gonna be easier to transfer off.
I think that's some parchment.
I'm gonna put one tray in at the top and one tray at the bottom. Once you've gotten your rolls translucent, you're going to prick them with a fork. Oops, Maxwell, can you go get me a fork, sweetheart? From there? You're gonna prick it with a fork, and then we're just gonna bake it for 7 to 12 minutes. So Al, when he gets a fork, oops, remember it's in that drawer all the way over there. I'm now gonna roll out my second one to bake. We're gonna do 2 batches. So we'll bake the first 2, and then we'll bake the second 2. Do you want to roll it? No.
all right.
Like, let me see if I can get a better circle this time. Let's see how everybody's doing out there. Translucent might be a stretch. Yeah. Ours is not a circle at all. That's okay. Mine is not a circle either. But you know, it's interesting. What I notice is that the more, at first it kind of bounces back and it's really thick. But the more you roll it, the easier it gets. And it starts to get real translucent. Good job, Elle. So Elle is going to put it with a fork all over, and then we'll get it in the oven. We're at 17 minutes, so I think we missed our 18 minutes. So they've got translucence, it's a little bit of a stretch. Marcy's is not a circle, but that's okay. So the other parts of a Seder plate are also really interesting. So a Seder is the dinner that you have during Passover. You often have a sort of a formal Seder on the first night of Passover.
Mommy?
And each of the there's a Seder plate that you walk through as part of the celebration.
Mommy?
Oh, here, yes, Maxwell. Hold on.
Could you make this one and then I could eat some of it?
You can have one more little piece of this one. So Nana says for matzo brie, you put, I would never know if it's matzo brie or matzo brie. You put a sheet of matzah under hot water in the sink and you saturate it. And then you crumble it into pieces and you dip it in an egg and milk mixture. And then you put it on a frying pan and cook until it's crispy at the edge. And you can sprinkle with cinnamon and sugar.
That's what I like.
You like it with, Ella likes it with the cinnamon and sugar.
Wait, who was that? Who was that?
And so, yes, we hear from Ina that low on flour. Yes, we are still good on flour, but yes, I feel like I'm very much at that point. I don't know if everybody else is feeling that of really having to start making decisions about what to cook and what to use up and what to save. And it's so interesting because this holiday really made me think about that. I wanted to read something from this is sort of what you read at a Seder at the meal, and it says that matzah is a symbol of affliction and poverty, and it's the bread that ancestors ate as slaves in the land of Egypt, and that we're mindful tonight of the hardships they suffered and the cruelty they endured. But then it goes on to say, to all who are in need, we say, yes. To all who are in need, we say, we know you're suffering. We're anxious to help you in your need. And to all who are hungry, we say, come join us in our abundance. And so this holiday seems so, I don't know, it means a little bit more maybe this year than other years. And it's actually interesting because you guys know the question. I was thinking the same thing. One of the things that you do during the dinner as well is you ask the 4 questions.
The youngest child. I know some stuff.
So the youngest child asks 4 questions.
Why is tonight different from all other nights?
Why is tonight different from all other nights? And I feel like today we can answer that question. So my next piece is also not so much of a circle, but it is very translucent. And I'm going to go ahead and get this one onto parchment.
It's very hard to do. It's very tedious.
I was saying it's very tedious to do the fork.
You want it in a straight line, but it never.
So here we go with our second piece of matzo. And I think it's kind of translucent-ish. I'm going to put that on our tray. I'm going to grab another fork. Elle, you don't have to be as exact as that, although you can be.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and look at that. You can go. You're going to prick it with a fork.
No,
You can also sprinkle it if you'd like with a little bit of salt. Or, go crazy and add some seasonings to it. I saw one post saying that they had added caraway to the top of their matzahs or pressed that in. All right, so then it goes in the oven for 7 to 12 minutes. And you're really and this is really dependent on how thin you were able to get your sheets of matzah. And while these are cooking, you can get the other 2 ready to go. Elle, I think we're ready to put that in.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's the roundest one yet.
Exactly.
Oh, that's looking so good. All right, so mine's going into this nice hot oven. Hopefully to get real crispy. And I'm hoping that the oven's not too hot for the parchment. Sometimes that starts to burn a little bit. So the other things on a Seder plate while we're waiting and while you guys are getting stuff ready, we have our Seder plate managed and recognized as I went up to the attic and found the plate. So tonight when we do our Seder over Zoom, which I'm sure lots of families are doing. Is that what you guys are doing tonight?
Yeah, we've got ours. Well, I've got flowery hands. I'll let him show. My cousin and Anne are organizing one on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
And so we've got, we could get, which actually was pretty good. Will went out and was able to get horseradish sauce, but it's the bitter herb.
Okay.
I will make some haroset, which is usually dried fruit, nuts, apple, sort of chopped up, mixed together. I might just make this with peanuts, are the only nuts we have.
So I have to show you what ours is going to be tonight.
Oh, go squeeze.
We ran out of apples and we cannot get apples today. Or we're just not going to go to the store to get them. So we're going to try it with a squeezable apple.
Why not?
I think it is like the true spirit of the Seder, though, to just make it with whatever you have.
Right? That's what I'm thinking. And I was looking at, I have another Seder book that our wonderful Nana sent to us that talks about what these different
I can read that stuff.
parts mean. So the matzah, I'm just going to read little snippets of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't set my timer. So let me do that quickly before I.
Okay. So the matzah.
But I don't want to read the whole thing because it'll take much too long.
The matzah, there's 3.
Yeah, so we talked about that already. So the
bitter herbs. The
maror is the bitter herbs, right?
Symbolize the bitter life. Mom, are you using those matzahs?
We are, yes. So that symbolizes the bitter life while they were slaves. The haroset, it said it makes to look like a mortar because it's symbolic of the bricks and the mortar that the slaves used in making the Egyptian building. So that's the apple and
Nuts, dried fruit.
And some wine sometimes, right?
Yes.
And then the roasted bone serves as a symbol of God's arm that convinced the Egyptians to free the slaves.
Mommy?
So are you guys, did you have that for your Seder plate today?
No, my cousin suggested a carrot will work just fine.
A carrot. I love it.
Mom.
And so Robin, just so you know, you saw that it was 500 degrees and 7 to 12 minutes. That's correct. 500 degrees and bake for 7 to 12 minutes. And then the egg represents
The circle of life
the circle of life
and the sacrifice.
and the sacrifice. So you can have your hard-boiled egg, and then the carpet is the vegetable, and that's other than the bitter herbs.
We have parsley.
You have parsley for that one, and then for that you dip it into the salt water, right?
I love that.
Yes, I do too. And then you have the salt water that represents the sweat and tears of ancestors who were in slavery. And so that we have. I always love these. Our salt water.
Oh.
We also have one for horseradish that you add to your haroset, right? When you eat that.
Oh, I don't like the horseradish.
I love it. I don't know that we have any. I have to look through our refrigerator. I think maybe somewhere in the back there.
And then wine.
So my matzah is starting to get kind of bubbly, which it actually really looks like matzah.
Mine poofed up into like one big bubble.
Oh, wow. So I think the bubble will come undone maybe, or maybe not. And Aunt Marcy, Ella's Aunt Marcy says they're making matzo balls tonight also. Yes, Papa makes the best matzo balls, doesn't he? We will miss that.
Is that Tiffany?
Not Tiffany, that's Aunt Marcy. So I'm going to go ahead and roll out the rest of mine.
We do have one more thing that we put on our.
Oh, yes.
We put in orange, which I'm not sure the exact timeline of when this was added. I believe that the story is a woman who was a Jewish studies professor at Dartmouth, I believe, added this to the plate in the 80s to represent the groups of people within the Jewish community that were marginalized. So.
Oh, that's so interesting.
We put an orange on the plate to represent
people within the Jewish community that are struggling or are made to feel separate than others.
So this is to represent everyone being a part of the community and being treated with equality.
Maggie's family does a Seder that is really individualized for her family.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it comes from the 1970s when the Seder was meant to sort of integrate the struggles of other marginalized groups and include like a real message of solidarity and include problems of modern times. So like talking about how the coronavirus is really topical with Passover right now. In the 70s, it was the struggles of African Americans. So when we do Seder at Maggie's house, we sing African American spirituals. And there's like messages about environmentalism included in the Seder. And it really is like a celebration of justice for all peoples. And
I love that, Will. That's so lovely. I'm excited to hear more about your Seder tonight and how it goes. Are you cooking anything?
Yeah, we're just gonna make a chicken. This is what we have, and something green. Nothing out of the ordinary, but
yeah,
we're cooking a chicken.
That sounds lovely. We were lucky enough to get a brisket from our local butcher from Grass and Bone.
I'll just the matzah.
We're gonna make some matzo balls. Don't worry, we still have some matzo ball mix left over. We're gonna make some soup, just like an easy broth.
Can we make vegetables?
And we're gonna make some vegetables.
Can we make vegetable broth?
Yes, we can make some vegetable broth so you can have your. Ella has stopped eating meat, so she's doing some vegetarian options for tonight. And I think we're going to make what else are we gonna do? The matzo balls. I usually do chopped liver, but I can't do that today. I don't have that.
I can't wait to get that.
Oh, and Nana, I'm using your recipe for the brisket. At least if we can't be with you, I can share your recipe and
It's really hot.
make it seem like I'm with you guys tonight. So we're gonna do our brisket. We use like a Heinz chili sauce and brown sugar and cider vinegar, and it's delicious.
So good.
So Marcy's asking, what do we need to look for to know that it's done? So you want it to just be slightly browned.
whoops.
Oh,
Look at our matzah. We
It's a
just
little
pulled
burnt.
ours out.
Oh, this side looks good though.
I just pulled mine out as well. I'm going to go a little bit more. Oops. I'm going to put us on mute because our
Well, we've got, it's hot. This side looks good. The other side is a little burnt, but we'll try again with the next round.
I think it looks nice and brown.
It's not supposed to be that dark.
All right, we'll go for less than 12 minutes this time.
That one's got a big
Bubble.
bubble.
So we have really sensitive fire alarms, and I knew this would happen with the with our by putting the parchment in. So I think our next batch, I'm not going to do the parchment. Marin, I heard your alarm is very sensitive as well. So you're looking for it to be just a little bit browned and crispy. Mine was a little soft on the second side, so I flipped them so that they're going to crisp up on both sides. But Aunt Nancy says she remembers having matzo with whipped butter at grandma's. I love that. Yeah, it's really good. But her grandma's. Bubble matzo looks great, and loving the uniqueness of it. Ellie, you're doing a great job on that. So I cannot wait to see how everybody's matzo turns out. That was 31 minutes. We were close to that 18-minute mark. Not bad. It does not take very long. And I wish everybody a wonderful Passover dinner tonight who's celebrating. Maggie and Will, I hope you guys have a lovely evening and that your chicken is delicious and, you know, you have some good family time.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Happy Pesach.
Happy Pesach.
Thank you. You too. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.